You being in it for so long, and your perspective on being on the side of the government and then being on the side of the people is fascinating. And then how you got to that position, how did it shape your thoughts and your opinions of it, and why? I think it's an extremely interesting topic to talk about, especially since you have the experience. So how did you become an attorney? What made you become? So, because it's not a normal path run. So you're from a poor family.
Correct.
So you're one of the.
I didn't even graduate from high school, dude.
So okay, how'd you get in college and not graduate from high school?
So.
Because it's not a normal path. Somebody from a poor background to become an attorney.
No, I had a You're
a statistical anomaly, which is something that should be celebrated.
I'm 100%. Yeah. So I saw. I'm just laughing because I'm laughing at my journey, which is just crazy.
So partied in high school, didn't graduate.
I partied in high school. So in high school, my nickname was Little Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
So you had fun in high school.
100%. And I don't care. I mean, I smoked a lot of pot. I drank. I went all the way up to my senior year, and I missed 20 years of my last semester of my senior year. I didn't complete those classes, so I didn't get to walk. Right. I would pick up friends. We get stoned. I would drive them to school. I would pick up a different batch of friends. We go back and get drunk. I would drop them back. So I went to school. I just didn't go to class. So I was 20 years shy of getting my GED, and then growing up, I knew if I stayed in Reading, I knew I was going to end up dead or in prison because I grew. So now it's opening a can of worms, but I grew up kind of being a Jehovah's Witness, and so that religion really kind of fucked with my head pretty bad about Armageddon was going to happen. It was a new Earth. I was never going to see 18. The world was going to end. It was very doomsday, right? Very, very. I think that's, and I'll just say this because I don't care. I think that's one of the problems I have with the Bible is that the Bible's very fear-based. And I'm not saying there's not a lot of stuff.
Parts of it.
Correct.
Yes.
Where I was going to caveat. No, you're right. Parts of it are. And I think there's a lot of good stuff in the Bible. And I think that anything that helps someone be a more loving human being and kinder and more compassionate and more selfless, like 1 Corinthians, right? Love is one of the best fucking prayer scriptures things ever, right? Love is all these amazing things. But when you're 14 and 15 or 9, 10, 11, 12, or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and all you hear is the world's coming, you're going to die.
All negative.
Fuck. That's what you're taking out of that message, right?
Yeah.
You just are, because you don't have the brain capacity at that point in time.
You were at a fire and brimstone denomination.
Yeah.
That from an early age scarred you from the faith because they were preaching hellfire and brimstone and the earth's going to end and you better prepare and that's all that matters. And then that fear base makes you afraid of life. And so you reacted.
100%.
You reacted because you seem like a person who has been just gulping life ever since, experiencing everything you can. And I think it's a good thing. It's a great thing as long as it's tempered, to a point where you don't lead to self-destruction.
Yeah, I agree.
But,
and I have a couple times in my life, I've allowed myself to go into that darkness where I was self-destroying. Mm-hmm. But I think that having gone through those periods, I'm now in a space. I don't like the word place because place connotes a finite timeline of things. Mm-hmm. But I'm in a space of energy where I feel like, to the extent that our 10% human brain can grasp a capacity to understand the universe and why we're here, I feel like I got that. But I think growing up,
you're searching for a solution.
Me?
You've been searching for an internal solution to coping with it and being centered.
No.
Because that's what I got from that.
Oh no, sorry. So I don't believe in the word balance. The word balance doesn't apply to my life. I'm so at 11, it just doesn't apply. But I will say,
so you've been tilted there since then?
Yeah, I think, and so if we go back a little bit, so it's an interesting thing because it talks, for me, it brings up reincarnation, birth, the soul, the ego, the human condition. And I don't remember a lot from my early days of I don't remember a lot, but I feel like I've always been this in the moment kind of a guy. And then being raised as Joe's Witness really shut that down because it was very fear-based, doomsday, like you said. And so it really, and until I reached I was 13 or 14, Like I got really great grades up to like 6th grade. Like
Until you hit puberty.
Yeah. So apparently I was pretty smart back then. And then 7th and 8th grade hit. But I remember that's when I started with this whole Jehovah's Witness thing and the conundrum of like, why are we here? And like you just doing this sort of, you know, this inward. For me, I went very inward of like, what am I doing? Who am I? Why am I here? And I think that a lot of kids at that age do that. So I can't say like they don't, right?
But most are beaten in conditioned by systems to conform.
Right. And I was like, this doesn't fucking resonate. And so there was this struggle because a lot of people just accept like, I'm Mormon, I'm Joseph, I'm this, I'm like, that's my path.
This is what I'm told I'm supposed to do. This is how I'm supposed to speak. This is how I'm supposed to dress. And I have no thought process at all.
Correct.
But that's...
It didn't like my vibration, my inner being's like, this is not who you fucking are.
You're a free thinker.
And it
I think that's...
it created issues because then it's like, well, so what is the soul? What is a human? And I differentiate between like I fucking love your human, but you also have an amazing soul. And so for me, there's like, it's a different thing. Because you can have a good soul in a human, like, oh, you're a kind person, you're a good soul, and yet the human condition is you're a fucking asshole. So can you just let go of this human condition shit and just live in your soul? So I don't know, I do that sort of thing, right, in my own head. But then I also am like, I'm gonna love you anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? Because I don't hang on to shit. But I do think...
Well, you're asking for them to resonate at a higher level that they're not prepared to do.
Correct. And that's okay.
And
it's okay, right?
Every great spiritual teacher has gotten to the point where I don't care what tradition you go through. I don't care if it's saints or if it's...
It doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter.
They say the same thing.
Yeah.
You just got to accept them, pray for them, and
Correct.
then hope by example they'll see the wisdom in behaving that way, and they will change upon themselves.
Right.
And
I just let go of that dogma, the conditioning, and understand like when you get that feeling from the universe, right? Mm-hmm. And you fucking know it, and you're like, and then all of a sudden it creeps up and you get in your fucking head, and like I'm gonna talk, and I do it regularly, right? So I do it, and you go like, fuck, man, I had a feeling, I didn't listen, I got in my head and shit got fucked up. How do I stop being in my head? How do I stop being attached to something where I have this illusion of control?
Well, that's the problem. Society, every culture is going to want to promote conformity. You know, free thinking is the...
Not everyone, though, because we'll talk about Eastern religion.
But even within Eastern religion, they are not part of the ruling aspect of society. In the Eastern tradition,
that's
Confucianism is what rules those who lead the society.
Right.
You know, rules and manners and things of that nature. That a comparable mystic would be Taoism. You know, and they do follow that. You know,
right.
I mean,
right.
There's a story about a Taoist monks. When this person had passed and they're singing and laughing and playing music, and the person couldn't understand why. Confucius was like, "Why aren't you mourning?" And it's like they felt like more celebrating the life than to mourn the life.
Right, though, because that's...
But a lot of people can't understand that.
But it's attachment.
Yes.
And I feel like we in this souls who are supposed to be in this human condition are not meant to be attached. Like, if you look at like I love Buddhism, and in my own spiritual practice, there are aspects of Buddhism, but Buddhism has some very rigid rules about like on the rule of 3, or like you've got to go be, you know, silent for 30 days, and I'm like,
those weren't rules placed by Buddha. That was rules placed by teachers after him.
Correct, and I won't go too much into Christianity, but
same thing.
It is.
It's the human condition. When you create a system that's supposed to be one size fits all, not everyone is at the place where they can understand.
Amen, brother.
And they need to be told what to do.
Right.
And then that's where you get a clergy. That's where you get experts. That's where people refuse. It really kind of dovetails on everything we're talking about. We're in an era where free thinking has been basically destroyed.
No, drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
from whatever party or side or whatever.
But what's going to save us is that we are a free-thinking people. That's what individualism is supposed to be. The catalyst for change is the individual. And them setting a new example is what everyone else follows. Right. Human beings are followers. That's why Strike the Shepherd.
No, most Not.
Okay, here's all human civilization right here.
I.
One person figures out how to do something, and then they teach everyone else how to do it.
Well, but you presuppose that everyone else is going to follow that. Let me just use my experience.
If it makes sense, hey, this wheel is really efficient over what we were doing before.
And you know what?
This works.
Look, and I love the little fucker.
You know, if it works.
You fucked up.
Yeah,
but listen,
you have to prove it's something that's a benefit.
Okay, so juxtaposing my experience with what you just said.
Your life story, so
Hold on.
I want to go back.
I know
to
we
it.
did.
I want to be right back.
That's okay because I came up with a social conditioning and said I reject what you're trying to do to me. So I don't think that most humans are just gonna be like swallow the pill and be like, okay,
They do because.
Well, you said all. You said
majority of times.
You said all humans, and I was like saying no.
But in a conformist system, which every society becomes conformist, usually people who think like you are either marginalized or destroyed in some manner. So how did you avoid that?
I'm still marginalized. I'm destroyed inside, man.
You're probably in the top 10% of income earners.
No, I'm not that.
But I mean, like you're a highly qualified attorney. You're a person who's practiced for 20-something years, and so how did you go? The stats on that, the data on somebody coming from that background, making it through there has to have been the catalyst change. Some epiphany moment with you said, okay, I'm gonna apply myself to some goal because I see something that I want to do. So what changed? You're partying, you're chasing around, you graduate 20 units shy of your high school diploma. What was the change? What catalyzed your new path? Okay,
I'm gonna videotape this because I want to give my buddy a plug.
I think it's amazing because it's an example.
Steve Walter, this is for you on the podcast. You need to watch this, whatever podcast it is. But so I'm just gonna do it. Send it to Steve because
I can see you don't want to talk about the story, but I think it's an amazing story. I think it signifies what America really is.
I don't know. It's weird because I don't like. I can joke about myself, self-deprecating humor. I like that, right? But it's just weird to sort of
You don't want to give yourself an attaboy on your back.
I don't because who is the person to give the attaboy? There's no me.
But your example, that success would be if someone hears. It's why I love education is that somebody might hear.
Don't use logic with me, Ryan.
I'm gonna get you with it.
You fucking cocksucker.
And somebody else who might be sitting there just as unruly, just as capable, and see, you know what? There's something I want to. I think honestly, I think you're gonna say there was something that you wanted to pursue, some goal, some endpoint that made it worth it to you.
So I did construction. So I didn't graduate. I did construction for 3 years. And then during that time, I got hurt a little bit, and I just kept hearing what my teachers would say to me.
I had to say,
hold on, because you used the word, and I think that I'm getting children now. I feel like you know this word. If he just applied himself. I'm getting. So in those 3 years of construction, every now and then I would hear if he just applied himself. And so I went back and got my GED, and I got hurt and I took a year off, and I'm going to say it because I don't really care. And in that year, like, I was selling shrooms, I was following the Grateful Dead, like I was just partying and having a good time. And I went and saw my buddy Steve Walter graduate from Humboldt State University. And Steve and I had all these amazing high school stories together with the taxi cab and stuff. And somehow, some way, like, and Steve and I were like, I think totally sober. We were just having a beer or two. And Steve and I had some most amazing conversation. And I don't remember what he said. I just remember, like, fuck, dude, you're fucking right. And he wasn't lecturing me. It was just this most philosophical thing. And he just sort of echoed, I think, what my teachers had said. And during that time, the irony of me going to being a prosecutor, which is sort of funny, but I was watching a show called LA Law, which was like this typical Hollywood where lawyers were high powered, were making a lot of money, like super ego based, right? Super fucking ego based.
Yeah.
Not about like being a champion for the underdog, like doing this like crazy child abuse. It was so ego based, and yet I watched that and I'm like, And then after I talked with Steve, I'm like, I'm going to go to school to be a prosecutor, to do child abuse cases. Like that was my cause. And I got a cause. And I thought, that's what I'm gonna go do. And I didn't know what it entailed. I had no fucking clue. And I remember when I would tell my family, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to school and I'm gonna be a prosecutor. I'm gonna do child abuse cases. They just laughed at me. And my entire family laughed at me.
Why do you think that?
Because I was a snowboarder. I had a mohawk. I had a nose piercing.
You didn't fit the image.
I did not.
What somebody would be doing that.
And I was considered lazy. Like my grandfather, rest in peace. When I was 13 or 14, I would go over to his property in Olinda. Right, they had 5 acres over there, and I would wear white clothes so I didn't have to do chores. Because I was smart enough to figure out I couldn't just say no if I went over there and say, no, Papa. Now I'm a Papa, which I love. So I thought I would wear like a Mr. Zog sex quack shirt. I'd wear my white khaki pants with my, oh my God, these Hirachi sandals.
And Grandpa never called you on it?
And Grandpa's like, I think he may have, but no, dude, it was pretty it was like, dude, what are you doing? But God bless him. I wouldn't have to go lift wood. I wouldn't have to go move wood stacks, right? Stuff like that. And
you were so smart, you learned how to avoid the hard work.
I did. And so I don't know wherever that story was going, but when Steve and I talked, and then
well, it makes sense. You're explaining your thought process.
Yeah. So my family had this whole history of like, he's lazy. He doesn't want to work, and maybe they thought I wasn't that bright. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I think that my teachers saw something, and kept saying that, and so I think that. Yeah, I guess be a little bit emotional, but I think that getting back to our school system, where when you, I don't know if they quote unquote ever gave. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I don't know if they ever gave up on me. Like I just think that they always just kept saying.
Family of the teachers.
Family gave up, but I think the teachers always just said, just apply yourself. If you just applied yourself, God, if you just applied yourself.
Well, that's the one
and
thing.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's the voice I heard. Mm-hmm. I didn't hear my family. When you talk about like who gave up on you, sorry, that's that. Yeah. I want to come back to that. I didn't hear my family's voice. I heard the teacher's voice. If you just applied yourself, and I'm like,
saw your potential.
Oh fuck! All right, I'm gonna do it. Right, and I did it, and then, I did it, and so go ahead. Sorry.
And so then you went to go defend. So you found a worthy cause, something you felt was worth it.
Child abuse.
It wasn't most in our society, like really the one thing is just going after money. And then for somebody
fuck, yeah, right now.
For the true romantics,
oh dude,
it's not a real cause.
No, give me a Noble Crusade.
Why would you want to sell your whole life for just money? But then you got a cause that you felt was worthy spending yourself in and applying yourself. And you went after it, and you got it, and I think that's a very powerful message, because we should be allowed to discover who we are.
Don't you think?
And make mistakes, and well, there are practical and class reasons why that's not really allowed. But I think getting back to that place where we allow people to
if
grow.
we have, so we talked about before, and I'm sorry, but that family structure, whatever is the breakdown of the family. But if we have that safe space to do that, right, where it's encouraged.
You can't. So again, the family's pretty much broken, but we could move back to restoring that. But the whole point.
And then what? Next 3 generations?
It's going to take that. We have 3 generations of work ahead of us.
I
if
agree.
you really want to, really want to return this republic to being
a republic,
and building happy, strong, and capable citizens to essentially, what we're coming out of is where the average citizen was basically thrown overboard. The social contract was broken. And moving out of factories, everything of that nature is saying basically we were a team, and now we don't need you anymore. We don't want you. And all of our problems kind of come from that: the breakdown of the family, the breakdown of being a breadwinner. It's emotional. It's a lot of it is very deep. But
can I ask you a question about that?
Yes, sir.
With that, so do you or how do you have you considered back when we had these unions formed to be like to protect a structure and protect a thing?
You talking about family?
No, the unions like worker unions.
Oh, okay.
And then sort of like the breakdown of those unions.
What do I think about unions breaking down?
What do you think that has impacted the cultural and the familiar structure of things? Because I think that groups.
I think it comes down more to a culture and the culture and what the culture promoted and government policy that got in the way of the family. I think
that's where I was going with that.
I think unions are a good thing. They serve a purpose. So everything has its time. And it's like we talk about government spending versus non-government spending. The better, more natural place.
To what end, right?
It has to serve a logical purpose, and
but not paternalism.
No, not paternalism. Essentially, you don't group power, group money. That's what really it is.
I know.
Comes into play when there is a vision for the future that the free market is not willing to take the risk to do. So, for example, we wanted to unite the country. My favorite example of this is the Continental Railroad. That was a very good idea for spending
100%
government money to promote people who were basically the barons of industry to go out there and build it and incentivize them, saying basically we'll pay for you to go out there and where you don't see any quick profit. And then once you do this, you'll be able to own all the land on each side and you'll be able to sell off and own all the natural resources, which then once it was built, that kicked off the private economy.
Right.
And
I think the first part of that was great. I think that probably should have a little more parameters on it. So like,
what do you mean?
Well, I think that if you put this railroad through, you're going to own everything around it. You just kill everything around it, and it's just yours.
Well, that's empire.
I know.
I mean, you don't build a nation. I mean, that's the hard part.
I just like
people want the benefits of a stable, civilized society, but don't want the pains that are required to build such a society.
Correct.
I think,
dude, 100%.
I think to be actual members of a republic and to actually be a part of it, you have to be capable of that thought. For example, I would love to point out to people when I was teaching, that spice rack in your cabinet, everything in there would have made you a very rich, noble person a few centuries
back in
before.
the day, exactly.
And how many places were basically wiped out, destroyed, so that you could have those nice cinnamon or those paprika, these other spices.
#Dune.
And they don't get that because a lot of people don't see that. But everything around you, all the modern conveniences came with a cost. None of it doesn't come with a cost.
Dude.
And
there's always something attached to that, right?
Yeah. And being able to have that honest discussion allows us to be able to have those discussions and vote on, should we go to war or not? Should we do this or not?
Right.
Should we? But you really can't have that conversation if you're not an intellectual, if you're not willing to try to be one, to be able to see both sides.
Okay. And I would step back from the word intellectual. I'm saying, because I see.
But you gear towards that.
Well, I would say this. If you're not willing to be an individual who can set aside your emotions and have a rational, logical, because I like the word logical.
But that is intellectualism.
Is it though?
Yes, it's the very definition of it. You're using intellect instead of emotion. That used to be a very normal thing.
Okay, fair enough. But when you say
you had to set aside your emotions to think only logically.
Let me just own, when you said intellectual. No, what I did was I projected my own definition and my own experience of intellectualism.
What's your definition?
When you say intellectualism, it is a bougie, upper class, educated society about intellectualism. But I think if you say, not if you say, but I understand because you're right. An intellectual meaning an actual rational, logical, meaningful, brain-powered discussion
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, it's intellectual, then is it right? So listen, Ryan, why don't you pour some tea and crumpets? We'll get a bottle of the Bobby right here, and then we'll put on some wigs, and we'll have an intellectual discussion, and we'll figure out the world's problems. And now there's minions and the peons and the commoners and the peasants. Which reminds me of a great Monty Python skit in The Life of Brian, or no, Holy Grail, where they're like packing the mud pies, right? He's like, listen, you can have an economic base, and he's like, no, it's a monarchy, and they have this amazing intellectual, coming background, discussion while they're smacking mud pies, right? Like these are the peasants, but that's what we need to create is a culture that has independent critical thinking, and we don't fucking do that.
Well, because we don't have
and
that.
I can't bang my head on the phone. That's long enough.
It's the reason why the education systems become trash.
It's a fucking.
Shit. It's a jobs program. It's a contract.
That was a hand job there. Sorry.
But the reason why is because you hit the point on the head.
Was that literally? Did you just play on it? I hit the point of the head. Sorry.
Well, it's that skit, and we're still arguing in the 60s and 70s. We're still dealing with the same issues, and it comes down to if you really want to have a republic, the poor and middle class has to become more intellectual so that they can stand and have logical arguments with those who spend their life calling themselves intelligentsia.
So how do we teach that then?
I think it's going to have to become the culture.
Because we've gone away from like free independent thinkers. Like we've gone away from like, hey,
they don't want that.
Hey, Johnny and Susie,
they don't want that.
I want you to use deductive reasoning in today's lesson.
Reminds me of George Carlin. They want quiet, obedient workers.
Right.
Just accept. But that's why we're in the place that we're in.
No, my uncle. So God bless him, because he really supported me when I was going through the whole thing when my brother got murdered, right? So he was like one of the few family members who was always very loving and supportive. But he would watch me like talk to my kids. He goes, "Why are you talking to them like that? Like, why are you having a conversation with them? Don't you know it's, hey, do this because I say it?" And I'm like, Uncle, that shit worked in the 40s.
Well, you don't create thinkers. You don't create independent people. You create obedient.
You create fucking coolie drinkers, dude, right? So I'm like,
I agree.
I'm trying to teach my kids to be rational, logical, cerebral, analytical, and deductive speakers. I want to teach them logic. I want them to question every fucking thing and form an opinion.
I know why.
You got excited on that, didn't you?
Well, no.
I like it.
It's because I think your life is a good example of what's kind of going on. We have a class issue. And
oh, yeah, dude. Yeah.
And the normal pattern, and I've seen this from a lot of people, when you're born in poverty and once you get into the middle class or you get the job or you're amongst that group, you basically abandon your family. I've seen a lot of people
that's interesting.
They have done that. And they don't. Well, it's the hillbilly elegy. You read that book or seen that movie?
I try not to read.
Okay, it's basically a movie about.
That's actually a true story. I read so many police reports. Like I try not to read outside of work.
Well, he was from a poor hill background from West Virginia, and he went to Harvard. He went in the military. Went to Harvard, and he went back. His mother became an opiate addict. Heroin addict, and all these problems. And this story resonates with most of America. And instead of abandoning her and his family, which has so many problems, which is the norm, honestly, is that he went back and he tried to help someone. But the norm has been, why do you see the people born into a family that is intellectual is not trying to improve or help their community? They're getting out of their community. They're running over to the wealthy side of town, the wealthy group, and
because that's but it's a comfort zone, right? So that's an interesting word, abandoned. So we'd say like someone's born in poverty and they get to the middle class, they abandon their family.
No, because they don't live the same. They don't have the same habits.
Yeah, but you use the word abandon. I'm not telling like because words matter, right? So
I call it abandonment because if you have no social connection with your family,
I would say disconnect.
Yeah,
because I think abandonment means I'm going to kick you to the curb. But I think a disconnect to me means like your vibration, what you guys are doing, no longer resonates with me. And honestly, Ryan, it may be semantics. I don't actually know.
It's okay.
I don't know.
That's how you think and how you feel about it.
Yeah,
That's your
I don't
perception.
know because I'm an energy guy, and I wouldn't like abandon, like my son. I have no relationship with my older son. Right? I just don't.
Yeah.
But I've been through some shit with him that I won't get into right now, where I had to disconnect from him. And in his perception, I'm sure, like, will you abandon me? I'm like, well, I've rescued you 7 or 8 times out of the meth world, and I'm tired of being a fucking human punching bag.
I think you're mistaking tough love.
Oh, that's okay.
With a social disconnection.
We may get. I don't know if we'll get a podcast number 5, but we should fucking lead in with tough love
because I think that is important. I don't think that's the wrong thing that you did, especially if he has those issues.
No, but
the addicts hit rock bottom, they don't stop.
No, but that term tough love, fuck, dude, it's so loaded. We should get back to that.
Well, it's something.
Because
I've seen it too within family, especially obviously you've dealt with drug issues within your family, and
right.
I've dealt with them as well, and there comes a point where if you put up, a lot of people are like children, and they learn to either without having those structures, they learn to get what they want by either crying or yelling.
Oh, dude. Tantrums? Oh, dude.
It's like a grown-up having a tantrum.
Okay, can we pause this? Because we gotta segue this for the next fucking thing, dude.
Okay.
This is so good.
I think
no.
I was really good to talk.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And I'm going to dig into your psyche more, I think. But it's good because I think your story...
There's no me.
There's no you, but your ego at a point, I think most people want success. And somebody... with their family not believing in them and then having people, that's very powerful for a lot of people.